our channel because our whole purpose of this channel is journeying to whole. It's becoming better better people of ourselves? No.
Versions.
Versions is the word I was looking for. Versions of ourselves. And I think we all do that in different ways. And so I thought it was so important, just because maybe my way isn't for everybody, to interview other people or talk with other people who have different ways of doing life and growing in life and journeying in life. So this is my friend Toni. She is probably one of my very oldest friends. We were in elementary school together.
That's crazy.
And we've lived on and off near each other our whole lives, and just every time we get together, we pick right back up.
Thankfully.
And just, we dive in deep all the time. So she is just someone I'm super excited about you guys knowing and meeting and talking with, because I have had such a blessing to have her in my life. Our friendship has been just the world to me. So, and Lily, if you can see Lily, has decided to join us. All right. So I wanted to ask you some questions about your journey to whole, because Toni and I, in other conversations, have like agreed that that is our purpose. We want to be more and more whole for ourselves and for our families, to honor the Lord and things like that. So I guess I'm asking for you to either zone in on an area of life that you feel like that's kind of in your face right now, or a couple areas of where you feel maybe you have found wholeness, you are journeying towards wholeness, or you want to. If you can find one or two.
Okay.
Good luck.
And go. Okay. I would say where I start off with is just being in process and realizing I've got so much farther to go. And even in that, realizing that that's okay. That I don't have to be at the finished product. That's what heaven's for. You know what I mean? Like right now, it's all practice for the big show. And the Lord's, you know, I do lean heavily on those verses of, you know, He doesn't leave us. He doesn't forsake us. He finishes what He starts. Just today I read the verse about Him being faithful even when we're not faithful, which is like, oh, thank God. Because, Lord knows I need Him. But a few things I think of, obviously, like my most important relationships are my relationship with Him, my relationship with my family, and my relationship with my friends. Like, those are relationships that I would not want to be without, and yet all of them on different planes require different attention and sensitivity and devotion, or like a pouring into. So, yeah.
So process, you're in process, you personally, but you're also in process in relationship, like learning how to do relationship?
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, I just told someone today how I love friendships. I just love it so much. And yet, even as you've helped me walk through that and realize, you know, not everybody thinks the same, which sounds like a no-brainer, but it's just almost meeting relationships with a level of grace to give to someone where it's just like, they're not better or worse, but they may not be thinking about the relationship in the same way. And not that they can't, but maybe in that moment they're not, or maybe for a season they're not.
Yeah, we're all in different seasons.
Yeah. So, and it really is, I think it's just all of it. The process goes hand in hand with the right amount of grace, you know, to grace for yourself, or grace for others, and for the season. I mean, whether we're going through a season of a winter where it's just like, Lord, I'm trying so hard and I'm seeing no growth, and we want to speedboat past through it, and He's calling us to wait, which I'm not good at. But yeah, so let's see, like with my children specifically, some people, you know, in a funny way will say like, oh, I was the best parent before I had kids. I'm like, I wouldn't have even said that, because I recognize I had very little patience before children, but then it just magnified it now with children. And my husband and I, recently we were talking about having like a mutual respect. You know, we demand respect as adults. We're their parents. God tells them, obey your parents. And that's supposed to be like, you just do it, kids, you know. And then the parents, what? They don't have like a parents be nice verse. So we just kind of can get away with not being nice.
Right.
Oh, dang it. And so it was so convicting, because I was recognizing myself inserting, or, no, that's not the right word, interrupting their conversations because I'm the mom. And what I needed to tell them somehow took precedence over their cute little conversations, even if it was like weird and bickering or whatever. They're little, you know, it didn't matter. But I was being rude to them. I didn't respect them.
Oh my gosh, this happened to me today. Really? Kellen had did something and he had to ask me 3 or 4 times and I was rude to him and he said something to me. Mom, why are you mad at me? And I'm like, oh my gosh, I am so sorry. Yeah. It just came out. You're absolutely right. There's a responsibility to us on our part. Man. And that's the in process that you're talking about.
Yes, absolutely. And it's heartbreaking because it's in those moments where you realize, oh dang, I have so far to go still. Like, and like I was just mentioning to you before this was like, I want to be better now. I don't want certain things to be a process. Some things it's like, okay, that makes sense. I'm making my 5-year plan. I'm not that type of person, but if I was,
but there's all kinds of different people, right? You have to be able to address every single type of person. So that's a good point.
So that one's.
So what do you do when you're not the 5-year plan person, or that's not your style, but you know it's important? And like, what are some of the things you think? Have you learned anything? I think recognizing it first of all. We have got to come to a place where we are not, just because we're the parent, that doesn't make us perfect or making the right decisions in parenting. Man, no. But realizing we're in process, realizing we're growing, being willing to say we're sorry, and being willing to grow is huge. So that's like the first thing. But what are some of the things that you do or have done?
Well, recently it's been having these dialogues, whether it's with a friend or even just hearing somebody share their story, maybe that I don't know. Sometimes social media, sometimes I stay hard away from it. But lately it's been one-on-one conversations with people, and they'll be sharing maybe a similar edge of that same issue. And so just recently a friend mentioned, she's like, I find myself apologizing to my kids all the time. And that used to be something I was in good practice of. And I've just gotten out of that habit where she's like, I'm sorry on the inside, and somehow the words don't come out, you know? So I know that I'm sorry. I'm so broken over it, but then it doesn't turn into kind of like what you want for your kids. You don't want them to just say sorry because it's like a magic word.
Right.
You want their hearts to repent. And in some of my children, I see that easier than others. And then same for me, it's the repentance, but then the mending of the relationship doesn't happen. So that's where I'm like picking up on other people's testimonies or stories, and it's like, oh, mental note, like I need to do that more. I need to get back into that habit.
Yeah. Like using other relationships to
absolutely
to work on other relationships, like with our kids, but not a complaining session. I don't think.
No, more of like a an iron sharpening iron kind of thing, where it's just like you share your story and what can I learn from that, but what can I offer you as well, or vice versa. And I do love that because it just reiterates that importance of relationship, and maybe that's why I love relationships so much, because I recognize with all conviction that God gave us each other. Like that is, my kids and I talk about it all the time. People are the greatest gift to each other.
Really good.
And then for God to look at us like we're the apple of his eye, it's like, But I kind of get it in the sense that I know how important people are to me. Yeah. And that's kind of where it stops.
So what would you say to people who don't believe in apologizing to their kids? Because I do believe in that. I believe that you want to mirror behavior that you want your kids to see. Right. How many have been like watching their child and been like, oh, there's a little mini me right there.
Oh, shoot. Yeah.
And giving yourself a good old pat on the back. I'm so proud. But you want to mimic the behavior that you want to see. And so if you're apologizing, and you mean it, of course.
Yeah.
But you apologize so that they see that, it's okay to be humble. It's okay to make mistakes. I make mistakes. You make mistakes. And there's different styles of parenting, and I don't want to get on that bandwagon, because I get that people have their different styles, and we believe in what we're doing for the reason, but maybe some of us need to change some things up. I mean, how many times have I really wanted to be this black and white parent where I'm like, my kid said no is no and yes, and oh my goodness, has life changed as far as grace? God doesn't do that to me. I don't get spanked every single time. I mean, thank the Lord, because I've been a mess. So look at this. This is going to be a fun.
Ooh, Kenny woke up.
Okay, there's that. Along with the dog barking, I'm sure you can hear. Okay, oh yeah, she's got 5 kids and I have 5, so there's probably a lot of little voices.
Always outnumbered.
Yes. But so, is there anything that you would say say to somebody who's like, oh, you don't ask your kids forgiveness. You don't say sorry to a child, you know, because there is that. I made that person sound mean. Sorry about that. Sorry about that if you're that person. Actually, but I mean, that's my take on it. Is that you want to mimic?
Yeah.
Do you have any other?
I would say the same thing. You know, and it keeps biting me in the butt recently because that's exactly what I want. Is I want to show what I want them to then show me back.
Right.
And I'm not. So I'm basically that person where it's just like, even if I believe that apologizing is right, if I'm not doing it, I'm acting like someone who doesn't apologize. And I'll tell you right now that doesn't feel, sorry, it doesn't translate well. I'm seeing it in them where it's manifesting where they, I'm sorry, they don't expect, that restorative relationship amongst each other. They just yell at each other, and then maybe they separate and they go away, they go their differences, and I know that those are some tactics that some parenting styles will use. It's just like, we'll go away and come back when things are better. It's like, but that doesn't actually solve anything. It just kind of like clears the air. Maybe it helps, maybe it's a good practice, and maybe you can come back and do it.
Maybe.
Yeah, like I don't think it's wrong altogether, but in our home, with a lack of apology, both for me to them or them to each other, it's missing something of like the fruit that you want to be like growing. Because lately the kids and I have been talking about character, and everything that I feel like I'm teaching my kids is actually somehow something the Lord's teaching me. So I'm talking to them
that
about
makes so much sense,
right? I'm like, and I'm going to school today, kids. I'll be back.
Yeah.
Jesus and me have some things to work out. But no, you know, he meets us where we're at, and that's never been more true as being a mom at home with the babies, learning all the things too. And I'm thankful for it. I'm just, if anything, I'm just always knocked back down. You know, it's like that 1 step forward, 10 step back. So like, oh man, Lord, I'm in process, but I'm thankful to be in process. It's not easy, and there's all those things. It's just like, wow, all these things that we know to be true of the Lord are just coming back to like reality. It's like, I knew that. I should have expected.
We have to be reminded, I feel like.
Yeah, for real.
And then we'll get it eventually.
Eventually, right? Yeah.
But I think that's a good point. As far as journeying to whole. So in being in process, being okay with being in process.
Yeah.
And being okay to fail and to get back up again and again and again. And we're all doing that. And I think knowing that, we're all in this together. We're all doing that as parents.
Yeah.
But being willing to do it. And I think that's a good point too, as far as what do I process and where do I even start, I think is, you know, looking here first and being willing to be sorry, being willing to be an example. Absolutely. I was going to say something about it. Oh, you were talking about when you go, whatever your thing is, whether you're dealing with it right away or you're walking away, giving people time and coming back, dealing with it, period. You got to deal with it. But you can't force a heart.
No.
You know? So that's what true. Is it just our leading by example and them seeing a heart that cares, seeing a heart that's sorry? Is that and obviously God involved with everything.
Gosh, it's fun that you just mentioned that, because I was actually watching a different pastor this morning teach, and then my little YouTube auto played some other pastor. It was Francis Chan actually, and he was talking just briefly about this big subject, but he mentioned how his daughter needed the Lord to teach her something. Like he was noticing something in her, and it wasn't something that he could go in and tweak and have that conversation and then just like, okay, we got it, we're good. You know, and so I'm elaborating obviously on this little bit that he said, but it hit me so powerfully because I have a child where it's like, Lord, I'm beside myself. I don't know how to speak to her heart or change her heart. And it's that gentle reminder of like, if you're not in the business of changing hearts, that's my job. You know, right, like, oh, that's right, God. So realizing like that next step is like,
what part do I play mom, and you doing what you need to do to that person? Because
I'm in process. They're in process.
And remembering that they're his.
Right?
Because he has a work to do in growing them, and we're supposed to be the helper of that.
Yeah. There's like an ownership role that I've taken. Oh man, and it's been hard to realize, and I'll tell you in a second, just something that's been like, whoa, that role is going to be lifted, and like, I don't even know what that looks like. But specifically at finishing, that first thought was just like, to be sorry. No, you're fine.
I'm uninterrupted.
We're good. We feed off each other.
I got excited.
Okay, so excited. To be praying for my kids. So here I can pray for me and for being in process and recognizing that. That's not necessarily their mentality and their thought process, but if I am bringing them to the Lord and be like, Lord, I know they're in process. They don't have to know it. But I can help bridge that gap of what they're needing, and it's Him doing the work in their life, and kind of, again, my hands-offness of like trying to manipulate them or make them be who they're not yet. Because like you just said, they're in process as well.
Yes.
Okay, now fast forward to that other little moment. The more we keep thinking about, like, because we're given the word, we're giving out the play story and everything, and how He calls up His church. However it's going to go down, when He calls us up, in that moment, I'm no longer going to be like, God, 1 second, you know, like, I know you just called me up into the clubs, but where are my kids? You know, like, I won't be in charge of them. Like, it's that realization of He's given them into my care right now on this earth, where we're held by time, we're held by limitations. That's what this is here. But in that moment when we are called up as the church, as His bride, and I'm no longer a mom running after her 5 little ducklings, you know, it's like, wow, that's how I should almost look at what my role is now, sort of in that light already, as opposed to the overpowering, let me manipulate everything for your life. You know.
I had a friend recently remind me that they're already not ours. In a sense. I mean, they're ours. They're our babies. Yeah. Like you said, they've been given to us to shepherd and guide and lead and train, just like we're supposed to be doing with our dad. But they're His first already. So what is our job in guiding them to Him? You know, it's like. So.
I mean, quite honestly, wouldn't everything be easier if we saw it in the light that it's meant to be? We overcomplicate everything.
We do. It's probably control again, right?
Yeah.
Like, we want our hands on it. Because there are little bits. We're like, we're in charge with these little things. So.
Their meals, their everything.
Thank you for saying that, because I think that's what's hard. I have to help you from the moment you were born. I have to change all your diapers. I have to wash you. I have to teach you that don't touch that stove. I have to teach you not to fight with each other. Every step is us needing to do that. And I think when your kids become adults, you're like, okay, it's time to let go now, goodbye. But it's like, no way, man. I think it's just the slower process than that. Like, you know, we're going to hold you while you walk, but we have to slowly let go in a sense.
That's a process.
Right.
Of us learning. Oh, God.
Of us learning that. So, and it's I lose my train of thought so fast, but and realizing they're already His and that they have a story. They have their own story that God wants them to tell with their life. And we're supposed to be like teaching them to get there, but just the control.
Oh, right.
I was talking about control, that we end up having so much control purposely when they're younger, and then we just don't ever let go, you know? But if we were to let go a little bit more, like I have got control to let go of. I think that's what it is for me. Like I am still to train and still to lead and still to guide, but that might be some of the problem, right?
That makes perfect sense, because that is a process that we have to learn, and there's not necessarily like, you know, when you leave the hospital and you've got this mound of paperwork that's going to teach you how to be a parent, you know, do all these things, don't, the hot water and the, you know, cut up their food, whatever. Like there's so much, but there's not the next step, even if you had home births. Like there's so much that you just know, or people tell you up front, you're going to have a baby, you're going to have all these things, you're going to do everything for them. And I saw this cute little snippet of a mama, and she's like, I know your back hurts, but you're somebody's home. And her baby was already born. I was like, oh, that hit me like a ton of bricks. I'm like, that's right, I'm somebody's everything right now. But as he's learning, you know, my youngest, as he's learning to walk away, he's even recognizing he doesn't need me as much. I'm like, hey, come back. I'm
Don't
in charge of you. But yeah, just I think all of it is that right perspective, always with knowing who God is, knowing who we are, and then in that knowing who they are and who God is. Like ultimately all of our relationships are this. And then we just get to interact with each other. And hopefully always be bringing each other closer to Jesus.
Produce fruit.
Produce fruit, yes. Yeah, because otherwise it's just, I remember a friend of ours, Grace, had made that comment. It's just like, otherwise we're just well-behaved sinners or something like that. Where it's just like, if it's all about just behavior and no fruit, well, that's not lasting.
No,
you know, it's just like, well, you're good today.
Yeah, good job. And that's that grace again, and that journey, and that processing.
And to be excited about that. I mean, we hear all those.
Let's not be.
I don't know if it's cliche or if it's just a saying, but it's like the what is it? The gift is in the journey. You know, like that is You know, it's not just it's not just the end result. It's like, yes, I want to be.
You don't think of that as the gift,
No.
girl. This is stinking hard, and I am seeing somebody ugly in the mirror now that I have children.
Right?
I thought I had it going on, and now I'm like,
5 little mirrors.
Who are you? But you don't think of that as a gift, but I think you have to.
Yeah.
Because
but
you're
missing
becoming,
it.
you're missing it, and you're becoming better, right? That's what the purpose of doing life.
And it's hard. I mean, they say all those things. Our husbands are good at reminding us those things, like nothing worth having was easy. You know, I was like, I don't know about that. Sometimes, but in reality, it's like everything you work for, you can turn around and immediately see the value of that. If you had to work for it, you're going to be less likely to just let it go. You're going to fight for it, you know? Or if it's just handed to you,
that's
you have
very
nothing
true.
invested.
That's very true.
So many life lessons that I should be like, I need to tell myself.
Just watch this on the
watch that
YouTube
later.
channel and remember all your wisdom.
Oh, that's right.
Yep. You got a lot of wisdom. I'm going to thank Toni because I've been so blessed by this conversation and blessed by her always. But I loved having you on here.
Thank you.
And I'm so thankful, and I hope you come back for more
I will.
interviews. Anyway, we'll see you next time.
Bye.